we're here to look at Autodesk Vault and how to work with multiple file types inside of that. My name is Mark Flayler. I'm an engagement engineer with ImagineIt. For our agenda today, we're going to be doing a quick ImagineIt overview, and then we'll be jumping into our topics of the day, such as adding non-CAD files to the Vault, creating attachments with non-CAD files inside of the Vault system. We're also going to look at non-Autodesk integrations, as well as the any CAD functionality available inside Inventor, which can help you work with multiple file types which are not Inventor, and how they get added to the Vault. So let's begin with a little bit of an ImagineIt overview. This is something that if you attend most of our webcasts, you've seen some of these things before, but we'll just kind of go through it a little quickly. There's some new information in here that is pretty important from some recent work we've done over the past summer here. But we're going to begin just by talking about what ImagineIt is really here for. Obviously, we do a lot of discovery around it, or technology solutions for our customers. We do a lot of optimization with professional services. We also really focus on productivity. So everything around training and support as well. We'll flesh this out a little bit more. ImagineIt is actually one of the subsidiaries of RAND Worldwide. And we have a couple other sister groups as well, such as Ascent, which if you ever attended a training course from us in the past, you've actually been using our Ascent manuals. They're actually our sister company, great people. I work with them all the time. ImagineIt is actually the Autodesk arm of RAND Worldwide, and RAND 3D also does a lot of work with Dassault and PTC training and Dassault software. Now, this right here is actually a newly updated map. Over the past summer, we actually have grown quite a bit as far as our office count. So we've added quite a few new offices, and we're basically reaching more and more markets as the largest professional services organization across US and Canada. As far as services we offer, of course, you know quite a few of these if you've done work with us in the past. We're going to be focusing primarily on the data management side of things, obviously for this particular webcast. But of course, there's other things that we do offer as well in case you have additional questions to bring up with your sales reps after the fact. So let's start off by looking at our topics of the day. We'll start off with a pop quiz. What type of files are supported by the Vault? And a lot of times people say, well, yeah, probably just the Autodesk ones. Well, the real answer is all file types are supported by the Vault system. So Autodesk solutions, they have a built-in add-in. So like AutoCAD electrical, mechanical, all flavors of that. The Revit products, Civil 3D, Inventor, of course, and all check in and check out files and interact with the Vault environment directly inside of the CAD application. But you can actually add other file types as well. Now, there are some additional integrations that Autodesk does provide for some very common business systems. And then there's other things as well to look at too for how you can add files, either on a manual basis or through an external plugin. So let's start talking about looking at non-CAD. So we're here, we're not really considering anything about Inventor files or any other CAD systems files, just basically non-CAD stuff. How do we get it in there? Well, one of the easiest ways is to right-click on the folder inside of Vault where the file is actually located in the local workspace. So for instance here, under Designs, there's Project 2005. If I right-click on that and choose Add Files, it's going to open up a window to that folder on my C drive. And anything that's in there, I can add directly from that. Another method of doing it is drag and drop. With that one, you have to be a little bit more careful about it, and I'll explain why when I demonstrate it. But examples of things you can add that are common for engineering collaboration would be things like PDFs, or maybe TIFF files from old scans, JPEGs or bitmaps, text files, or even CAD programs and post-processing routines could be added to the Vault environment. Now, Office documents do have their own plugin available for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So there actually will be a tab inside of those products so you can check in files, check out files inside of that environment directly. So you can work with your Office documents, which are much more common for engineering collaboration, and work directly inside of Microsoft Office. Now, to go along with some of our topics of the day about working with non-CAD files, it also makes sense to talk about how you can create non-CAD files from the Vault system too. So for instance, there's a couple utilities that we have that really speak to this conversation. One of them is our client-side Imaginet Vault client utilities. Those actually work directly inside the Vault client, and they work inside a Vault Workgroup as well as Vault Professional. These tools are actually really worthwhile. We've created them over the years for quite a long time, and they actually give you some nice tools for exporting PDFs, DXF, step files on lifecycle events. So they've been very common for our clients in that space. On the server side, we actually have a paid tool called the Imaginet Vault Server Utilities. The client side ones on the top there, they're actually included when you have subscription through Imaginet for your Vault Professional. But the server side, those are at-cost software. One of the most important things about those is if you have, let's say, 10,000 TIFF files, and you have a database of this TIFF file is this part number and this description, this area code, whatever it may be, you can actually take that data from an Excel spreadsheet and map it into all those TIFF files you have inside your Vault system, which is a very beneficial thing when you're talking about a lot of these files. So for instance, our Vault client utilities, just another quick look at it here. I highlighted in green the important thing to talk about, and that's creating PDFs, DWGs, and DXFs. Some of those can reside directly inside the Vault, and others can actually be exported outside of the Vault system. But it's definitely something to consider when you're talking about more than just CAD. On the Vault Server Utility side, the Vault Metadata tool is the one you want to be interested about to do Excel exports from your Vault system, as well as Excel imports of all your metadata. And there's also a batch rename tool there that can be kind of helpful in case you have duplicate names, which does tend to happen when you have a lot of PDFs and Word documents that aren't necessarily controlled the right way. So if you're trying to load in a lot of data and then rename it, it's actually a really quick way to do it. So let's kind of do a demonstration now of bringing in non-CAD files into our Vault environment. So I'm going to toggle over here to Vault to begin with. And I'm going to basically take a look at my local workspace. So over here, this is my local C drive, which is the mirror that comes down from our Vault Professional client here. So you can see all my standard CAD files are in here, but I also have some other things. So for instance, I have a photo in here called gripper arm photo. And basically it just looks like this guy right here. So very simple looking photo. It's going to be a photorealistic image that maybe we're tracking for some reason. Maybe it's a cover sheet for certain images for our product manuals, whatever it needs to be. Now, in order to get it in there, I can drag and drop it directly from my Windows Explorer. What will happen here is it'll say that it's going to this location, Designs gripper arm photo, JPEG here. I can add comments to this, just like any other file. What's important to understand about this methodology, though, is if you're dragging this from, let's say, your desktop on your computer, and you're dragging it into this folder location in your Vault, the next time you check that file out for whatever reason to do a revision on the image, or it's got a new version of this thing, it's going to check itself out to the mirrored directory in your local workspace, because that's how Vault operates. So the key to this is if you're going to drag and drop the things in, make sure they're already structured in the environment that you want them to be when they come back out again. So I'll say OK to this. It's going to add our file here. And so there's our new JPEG file. Now, again, if I want to do it a different way, I can actually right-click on the folder here and say Add Files. Now, this is also available from the file pulled down at the top of the screen, but I'm going to choose it right here on the right-click and say Add Files. So basically, take me to that same directory on my local C drive that you see over here on the right. I'm going to choose to add this robotics manual, which if I just show that to you briefly, is just a simple PDF. It's got about 20 pages in here for this VEX robotics. So I'll go ahead and say Open. Here's my PDF I'm going to add. There we go. So here's our PDF. Now, if I'm working directly inside of a Microsoft Office product, like Word, let me go ahead and open up one of those. Here's my Imagine It TPS report, can't forget our cover sheets. So this is also located in that same directory, and I'm going to go up here to Autodesk Vault, and I can log in, just like I would log in through Inventor or AutoCAD. Essentially, you have the same sort of tab up here inside of the Office products. At this point, I'll go ahead and choose Check In. You can see I have my file listed right there. Add some initial notes to that. And I'm going to keep the file checked out. So I'll go ahead and add that. Now, if I start adding some information to it, I'll just put my name in there. I'm going to check this back in again. So it was revision A. Obviously, I can do work in progress toggles. I can do things like that. One thing you'll notice about these Office add-ins is they don't have the Vault Professional or Workgroup toggles for the lifecycle state changes, but they do have options to get revision. So if you do need to change states and release things, you still do that through your Vault client. I'll go ahead and check in that extra version. Okay, now that time I didn't leave it checked out, so now this is in the ownership of the Vault system. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And let's look over here in our Vault. We'll just refresh this guy with our refresh icon. Okay, so here's our TPS report. Just make this a little bit larger. Now, when you're looking at documents that are not CAD related inside of Autodesk Inventor or inside of Autodesk Vault, when you click on the preview, it still has an understanding of a lot of these things. So here you can actually see a document preview of the Word document, much like you would see a Word preview inside of the Internet Explorer. And if I want to look at old versions of it, you can see it does keep track of those. So here's my first version I checked in, and then my second version. Looking at the preview, if I wanted to show all of them, I could go back to the previous one. Let me just click off a bit. Okay. Now, if I look at the photo, obviously that's a little snapshot of that, but if I click on it, I'll get a much bigger preview here. Okay, so there's a bigger preview of that. You can zoom in, really take a look at it. Same thing with the PDF file here. You get the thumbnail initially. And this is a neat little trick I'm going to show you. A lot of people don't like clicking on the thumbnail for the preview, but the way it's done inside of Autodesk's mentality is that if you had the previews turned on and it automatically showed you the preview without clicking on it, it would slow down your clicking through of the different file types. However, if you're someone that always likes to see the preview when you click on a file, what you can do is go up here to your Tools tab, go down to Options, and you're going to look at Document Previewers. So when you click right here, you can say, well, when I click on a file, I always want to see the PDF, and just go ahead and show it to me. Maybe the same thing for Microsoft Office documents. You do the same thing for PowerPoint or Excel. I'm going to also do it for DWFXs. So I'll say OK to that. There we go. So now when I click back to that PDF, instead of having to click on it, it just takes me right into it being clicked on. So a little bit faster, and you can scroll through there, zoom in and zoom out and such. Now when you right click on this, you can see there's some PDF functionality there too, first page, last page. So it's basically like the Windows Explorer previewer, but a lot better. Okay. Now, all these files that I brought in, as you can see, they don't have any part numbers or descriptions assigned to them. They don't have a PDF part number or description assigned to that. Well, you can essentially assign your properties in here. There is a way that you can do searching and indexing with iFilters to reference some data and bring it in, but it has to be data such as document properties or very intrinsic data of your file. If it's something that is not included in the PDF or Word document or photo, then you might just have to add it. So on any of these files here, I'm just going to go ahead and select all three of them. And I'm going to go up here to Edit and choose Edit Properties. From this, I can come in here and set some information in. So for instance, let's go to part number. Let's add this. Don't need author there. Okay. So this part number happens to be 102650, and it's actually the same for all of these, it's the same part number. So I'll just do a drag down here. Say OK to that, and it's going to update those properties inside the Vault system. Now, to do that on a mass scale, that's where our Imaginet server utilities could come in. So these are a set of tools. You generally only need one license of these things to do these mass updates. So let's go ahead and take a look at the metadata update. I'll just log into that quick. Now, the actions you do here, usually the best way to do it is to perform an export to get the information you need, parse it down through Excel, make changes, add changes, do VLOOKUPs against other databases or other Excel spreadsheets, and then turn around and perform a metadata update to push the data back into the Vault system. That can be done for more than just these types of files. These can be done for Inventor files or AutoCAD files as well. But it's a great tool to kind of populate this data that doesn't inherently come in. Go ahead and exit that. There we go. Okay, let's jump back over to our PowerPoint here. So the next thing I want to talk about is attaching files. Now, once we add a file to the Vault system, like that PDF or that image document or my TPS cover sheet, how do I attach that to, let's say, my Inventor assembly file? Or maybe how do I attach the PDF to an Excel quote? How do I make sure that I can create some relationships to understand how things are linked together or how things are correlated together? Well, you can create a relationship inside a Vault Professional, call it an attachment, that will actually show up in your uses and where used tabs. And you just have to be careful how you set them up and how you turn them off. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do a demonstration on how that's performed. All right. So with these files, you want to make sure that they are checked in, because if you look at my IAM here, you'll notice that the paperclip up here for attachments is not available. The file has to be in the ownership of the Vault system before you can do this. So what I'm going to simply do is I'm going to put an attachment of the photo onto the PDF. So I'll go up here and I'll choose attachment on the PDF. Here in this box that shows the attachments for the PDF manual, I'll say attach. It takes me initially to that same folder, but of course you can browse around, you can search around. Okay, I'm going to find the photo there and say open. So now this is going to be an attachment onto that. Say OK. Now when I look at uses and expand that out, you'll see there's an attachment there now. And you'll see the photo is listed. Likewise, if I go to the photo and do a where used, I can see that attachment into the Vex Robotics manual as well. So you can see some bidirectionality there of uses and where used. Somewhat of a manual structuring, if you will. Now, if you decide you don't want that attachment for whatever reason anymore, you can't just go here to the manual and go to uses, expand it, and then right-click and choose delete. What that will do is actually prompt a delete of the file. And as an administrator, you need to really watch what you're doing. So in order to get rid of the attachment, you actually go up here and choose attachments again when you're on that file. So let me click on the robotics manual here, click on attachments. You'll see it's still in there. To remove it, you do have to choose this detach option. Now take it off of your file. There we go. It's now no longer show in the uses or where used. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. Next up, we're going to talk about other CAD file integrations. Now, Vault Professional actually has some built-in functionality with some Autodesk apps. They're created by Autodesk and put out by them as a subscriber tool that you can actually have some add-ins inside of MicroStation, SolidWorks, as well as Creo and some older versions of Wildfire. So these are available on the Autodesk App Exchange store. And I'm just going to jump over to the website there for that. If you've never been here, there's plenty of apps that are out here. Some of them are created by Autodesk. Some of them are created by third-party developers on the Autodesk Developer Network. But what I'm going to look at is the Vault ones. So I'll choose Vault. And I'll come in here and take a look for, let's say, a SolidWorks one. will give you the add-ins from Vault Professional for these different versions of the software. And something to be aware of is when you choose your version of Vault, if you are working with other 3D CAD programs in your organization, there's only certain ones it's supported up to based on different release cycles from different companies. For instance, the Vault 2020 add-in right now works all the way up to SOLIDWORKS 2019 SP2, but nothing higher because it's not been tested or supported for that. But these are free to download. You just have to log in through your subscription site here. You just sign in, and you can download them and start using them. For some of them, there is a client-side integration as well as a server-side integration. So for instance, the Creo one is only a client-side. Allows you to do check-in and check-out. Same thing with the MicroStation one. The SOLIDWORKS one has a server and client-side installation. You can actually do indexing and mapping of properties and metadata from your SOLIDWORKS. So you have some nice functionality there too. Now, how it actually looks inside of the tools is kind of what we're going to see here. So for Creo, you can see there's a check-in and check-out. You get a similar window that you're accustomed to with the Autodesk Vault client-side interactions. With SOLIDWORKS, same thing. You have a tab in there, as well as some right-click options to do checkouts, open drawing from Vault, go to Vault folder, some nice integrations inside that as well. And then the MicroStation add-in is a pull down at the very top of the screen to get some of the things from your MicroStation interface. Now, to piggyback on to this conversation about files that are not Autodesk native, Autodesk introduced something in 2016 called AnyCAD. And AnyCAD is something that's been a very common trend in the marketplace nowadays. The ability to be able to reference in a file without converting it. So if you have any native changes to the native file that's not Autodesk related, it will then update your Inventor model with those changes. And this also works for step files now as well. The biggest caveat here for anyone that's worked with AnyCAD is, of course, if someone changes something too drastically, of course it's going to cause problems in your models, in your assemblies. You know, if you take a square peg and replace it with a cylinder, chances are your relationships are going to be different. That's not shocking. But if you have small minor changes, like a hole slightly moves this way or that way, if you have something that gets added to the file that's not related to any of your relationships, it's simply going to update in place. You simply update the source file, either it's downloaded from a manufacturer's website, or if it's been given to you from a client deliverable, basically you just update it on disk and you're good to go. Now, these can also be added directly into Vault, because when you check in an Inventor assembly, drawing, whatever it may be, it knows that there's a SolidWorks file or a Solid Edge file or a Creo file or a step file that's been used as a reference. And it knows to check that file in with the Inventor assembly. So that way, when you're looking at your uses and where used, inside the Vault environment, you can see the entire picture. You can see everything that's going on that's not necessarily all Autodesk data, perhaps. So we do have a nice chart available on our manufacturing blog, something I created. I keep this up to date yearly. This was basically a nice little chart that a lot of people like to print out to understand import and export options. When we're talking about this reference, this AnyCAD functionality, you're really looking at the import option here. So if you're looking at reference or convert, that's the options you have. A convert is a very traditional way to bring something into Inventor and then later into Vault. You're converting it from the native format into an Inventor native file type, like an IPT. When you choose the reference option, that's how you get it to stay in its normal native format. So for instance, a step file can stay a step file and be consumed and checked in. Same thing with Solid Edge files. That was a late addition to the AnyCAD infrastructure, but that's been included in more recent versions. Pro Engineer, the Creo files and such. And it's also worth mentioning that these file types, there's a utility that comes in Inventor that can map metadata such as part number fields or custom property fields you have in these other CAD format types to what the new file type or new property should be for Inventor metadata. So you have a nice way to kind of work with this data you never had before. Now, in that sense, let's do a demonstration on that real quick. So with my gripper arm here, I actually have this little part right here that's on top, so bearing bracket. I'm going to go ahead and open up this SubAssembly just to show you what this kind of looks like. Inside of this, actually, let's open that explicitly. Let's open that all by itself. There we go. So this little part up here on top, you can see the icon actually looks a little bit different. It's this last one down here in the lower left. So a traditional part file inside Inventor 2020 looks like what you see here, but this one has been one that's been referenced in. If I expand it out, or if I try to double click it to activate it, you can see that you get some limited functionality there. Instead, I can choose Edit Import, I can suppress the link, I can break a link. There's a lot of things you can do with that imported file. When you initially bring it in here though, that's when you choose how you want it to be done. So if I say, I don't know, place imported CAD file, and I choose that, let's say this ring file here, it's another step file, but you can bring in any one of these other types here. So let's choose this step file. I'll say open. Drop that in. This one here was actually converted. You can see the difference between those two. I'll go ahead and close that. Let's do a open. Let's open the step file. Same thing, if I choose ring, you can see it brought in as that base component. Let's do this with the bracket piece here. You can see it's kind of remembering my settings. So as I drop this next one in, that's automatically been referenced as well. Now, since I have some remembered settings here, I'm actually going to go to another assembly, and we'll kind of see what it looks like from that side. So I'll place an imported file here, do step again. This is the dialog box where you can choose whether you want it to be a referenced model or a converted model. Convert is going to change it over to your standard Inventor IPT file, something you've probably been doing like this for years. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK to bring that in. There's simply a imported component. Now, there's actually some neat tricks you can do with imported geometry. Again, this is kind of outside the scope of our webcast, but it's something I really like to show. I like giving you guys free stuff. So Autodesk Inventor actually has a hidden debug tool. And if I remember it correctly, it's Control F7. Yeah. So Control F7 actually analyzes your imported geometry and lets you know if there's anything wrong with it or bad with it. I can't tell you how many times I've actually worked with some of our clients that imported a step file that they thought was good. It looked good. It was actually a solid piece of geometry. But when they analyzed it, it ended up causing a lot of problems in their designs because maybe one face was flipped the wrong way. And that can actually cause assembly performance degradation. That can cause Inventor crashes just from having one bad step file in a very large design. So this allows me to kind of check the bodies to see if there's any problems with it as an analysis before I decide, yes, I anoint you as a good file and we move on. So this gives you a nice little extra tool. Again, that was Control F7. It's a nice little handy body integrity tool, is what that's called. Been there for years, one of those secret little tools. Okay, going back over to the gripper assembly here. I'm going to close out of this, go back up to the main level assembly. And what I'm going to do here is just a simple check-in. So let me just do a refresh on this. And we'll go ahead and check this in. We'll save it. Now, as I look through here, you can see the step file. Not the converted looking icon that I had before, but the actual step file is going to be checked in with this because it knows it's part of this design. Okay to that, and we'll allow it to check in. There we go. Let's go back over to Vault here, and we'll just do a refresh. All right, so as we're looking through here, okay, get that checked out to me, I believe. Yep, there's our step file right off the top. And again, there's no part number or description on that because I don't have any indexing for that step file. Of course, if I have Inventor iProperty data and I converted that to an Inventor file, I would have that automatically indexed. So you do have to be aware of some of those restrictions and things that you're looking at when you deal with any CAD files. One last note about any CAD is I do know that there have been some previous versions of Vault that have trouble with any CAD when you're utilizing the autoloader. So as a general practice, I would recommend you open up designs that have any CAD references and you check them in through a traditional sense and not through the autoloader. Okay. So at this time, we're going to do some Q&A based on the topics we had here. Anything that you might have had as a question, obviously you can be shown in the chat window, and we can kind of walk through and talk about some of those things with the time we have.